Hey everybody, at Texas Trucker here, Lance's Performance Shop, LoneStarMopars.com. Monday night about 9:30 p.m. and we've got the fit shears. Lots of people bring these in. Most people tend to never use them. There's two versions. You've got the padded handle and you've got the acetate handle. And as you can see, I was using these tonight. So they work quite well with the, had a Yopon Holly, and somehow like the late freeze sort of killed off a big chunk of the bush. So went ahead and trimmed everything out, cut it down to sticks. But that's not why we're here. And we're not here because it's really hot. We're here because it's a mess in here, and I'm kind of going to walk you through it. So I started doing that because I was waiting. That was the ballast will spill there. I got brooms. Ooh, what's that? Well, that's why we're here. Okay, so you're seeing some more of this. And we got some of that. Let's come back down, spin it around over here. Oh, got a couple more of these things. I think they're a new addition to the shop. There's a sixth one over here. And then, boom, we've got these. So, if you cannot tell, also, when I unloaded this stuff, I chose to break in a brand new pair of the Alpha Vibe, so I went with green this time. That was exciting, always cool to use a new pair. But if you take a gander, there's a lot going on here. The truck, which can't show you that because you might actually see some things you're not supposed to see, but like, it's a mess, you know? And I've shown you this stuff before, right? I sort of have my set walkways here. There's our makeshift table. Here's a 440. There's the 5.2 from the truck. There's a 318. Well, it used to be in the Duster here. And we have some problems. So there's the gantry crane, the roll cart, everything, right? So this is not how I like it. This is not how I want things to be. I don't want the weight machine to be inaccessible, you know, unless you're like waif thin. I don't want the punching bag stand to stand there with its top for the speed bag over here and the punching bag over there between bench seats for the charger. That's not the goal. And subsequently, what I've decided to do, the Husky shelves that we've got, two of them, I really like them. I do. They're a good buy. I endorse them. One of them was a misaligned POS though, and I had to, I don't know if I ever made a video on the Capri hole punch, but I had to modify them quite extensively to make their parts work. And that was sort of unlucky. Again, one of them was perfect, the other was junk. I assume you're gonna luck out more than you would get junk, but it is what it is, right? The thing is, their depth, their height, nothing really wrong there. The problem being, there's you can't see it because we've got, you know, parts, bench seats, motors, quarter panels. The hood of the truck kind of blocks it. But like, take a look at the sawhorse, right? That bottom shelf is integral to the sawhorse standing up. You know, it needs to be there. With those Husky shelves, I don't remember the exact circumstance, but they say you've got to have the bottom shelf within X distance of the floor. X distance of the floor, we could shove the wood under it. We could shove that socket case. We could roll probably a Harbor Freight furniture mover's dolly. We could throw some cylinder heads. I don't know that a crank would fit. It might, you know. You could fit some stuff under there, and that's cool. It's nice to have the floor storage. What we can't fit and safely use their shelves is a motor on a cradle, right? If you note, these motors on the cradle sort of push that table back, you know, taking away valuable space for a vehicle or, you know, more tools and parts to be strung out. And then the biggest annoyance for me personally is this. I can't get into the, you know, the OG Craftsman or the gray one that's like electrical crud. It's impossible. And then my rally box over there, you have to cut through there, and then I've got these cords because it's freaking hot and I have to run fans, you know. So enter all the blue stuff. What I decided to do, and you can kind of, you've probably pieced it together, most of you, I ordered in some Pallet Rack. But I don't like the colors Pallet Rack comes in, okay? So I kind of like the green, I'm not gonna lie, but I didn't want the green here. I've got green at work. I see it all the time. I like orange too. There's someone that manufactures blue uprights with orange shelves. I could not find that. It's sort of hard to find pallet rack for sale. I would have bought used. I would have been totally fine with that. I could not find any. The time to buy pallet rack is when a place goes out of business, especially like a lumber yard or a big box store like Builder Square back in the day. When they went out, and you want to remember Builder Square, right? Before Lowe's and Home Depot. Well, that's when you get the stuff. If you've got like some little mom and pop shop, it's a sad story, and they're selling out, go buy their pallet rack. You know, help them retire to Florida or something. Pallet rack is amazing. And by running the pallet rack, what I'm going to be able to do is get these motors out of here and against that wall under the pallet rack. And so these motors, and we haven't even covered the torque flight. We didn't even take you over here. It would be much more dramatic if I come around the other way. But we'll go this route. You know, things like this, the transmission jack, which has been awesome for me. Floor jacks, things along those lines. If I still have real estate, we're sliding that crud under the pallet rack. It's going to be great. Now, if I don't trip right over here, I've got new tires for the Challenger back there. That's the only place I have to put them. You know, at least it makes sense to have them by the door, and I never really go that way anyway. There's a torque flight just hanging out. We've got a 8 3/4 over there. We've got, I mean, all kinds of crud. And these quarter panels really need to go. That was given to me. I was helping a guy kind of restore his Charger, and he had year 1 quarters, and you know, the body man was telling him like, oh, these things don't really fit good. And I told him to use AMD, and the body man got the AMD fenders, and they loved them, quarter panels I should say. And somehow I wound up with these, which is cool. I guess I could cut them out for like rust repair, you know, but it's massive, right? This is a engine cover off the Mopar 10, and the box keeps going. Like, I'm losing a lot of floor space here, and it sucks. So ideally these are either going to get like given away or something. I don't know, send them on down the line. All I've really done is store them, like, and they take up a lot of space. I'm sick of them. But Dukes has your lunchbox, and I'm keeping track there. But this is the functionality of the shelf. It's great. I mean, all through here we've got parts, you know, whether it's original parts I've pulled, you know, and kind of shelving them, like for the Mopar 10. It's a new car, but I come from an old car background, so if I modify something, I keep the OE parts. It's just, it's good practice with my background, right? Same thing, I've got like parts stacked up for all kinds of cars. There's like some chassis stiffening stuff, there's mufflers, I mean, everything, all kinds of cool stuff. I just need time to work with. Got taillights for the Duster. I order the passenger side, and I get sent the driver's side 3 times. It's stupid stuff. There's dash pads and bumpers for B-bodies, bumperettes. I mean, all kinds of stuff, right? And it's cool, it's important, and I can't get to any of it, you know, without moving a bunch of other stuff. So coming back over here through the gantry crane, which turns out to serve a nice purpose here. Yeah, sorry, Gador. Holding the beautiful pallet rack. This is our area in question, okay? We've got overflow of the VHA 3Ks even. But I've got original OE parts. I've got like car show stuff. I had to replace a fan in the bathroom, and it was cheaper to get the whole unit, so it's sitting over here. A printer I never opened from college, you know, just tons of stuff. And so if you look, I mean, here I could come in, we could use a leg press, you know, if we wanted to. We could do some curls. Can't really get back there to do dips or pull-ups. That's a shame. So what this is going to allow me to do, we're going to have to move all of this out, because we have to move the pallet rack back there. And it's going to take some time, mainly because there's like no space for me to move stuff, if you haven't realized that yet. Realistically, what we need is a bigger shop. That costs a lot more than some pallet rack, right? So I'm going to be working. I wanted you to see this mess, and that's kind of what it is. Like, I've got the engine stand that was a mess down there, and then I've got this one, and it's like, what do you do with a free engine stand that they don't want to take back because of freight damage? You keep it. And so it's there. Here's the punching bag that needs to be hanging on this thing. From this side of the 318, you probably didn't even see the cherry picker. And we've got an engine dolly here. We might put that on. I don't know. I've got like fancy cable ties, grill for the Charger, but we just need to get this place organized. I think the pallet rack is the ticket. What I did with this pallet rack, I went ahead, it's 8 feet tall, kind of standard, but I made it 3 feet deep. I did not want 4 feet. I know, you're saying, hey, you know, you should have gone 4 feet deep. All pallets are 48 by 40. Well, not all pallets. I build pallets. I don't do 48-40. I know that's common, but I have no intention at this point in my life of using this to rack pallets. I do not own a forklift. I'm not going to manhandle items on pallets and put it here. Okay, so what I've done, I've ordered the uprights. I've ordered 3 shelf units. Okay, so basically you'll have a front bar and a back bar. I'm not sure I'm going to use all 3, but I might. It's going to depend what we put there. We went ahead, I opted for the wire decking. That's just going to give me a nice, better shelf unit, if you will, particularly again because I'm not going to use it as a pallet you know, holder, if you will. It's just going to be a super OP shelf. Where I went to get this stuff is Speedrack West. This is not paid. This is not sponsored. I had to pay out my own money to do this. I'm just promoting them because I can and want to. They're very nice, easy to work with. The thing that sucks there in Oregon, freight was absurd. Now, their price was pretty good on the pallet rack. If you were outfitting like an entire shop or warehouse, or, you know, if you were getting, you know, buy as much as you can. It's kind of like gym equipment. Get as much as you can because you save on shipping. Save up, do whatever you have to do. But for me, this is what I need right now. The freight was, I mean, absurd, and it went up from the original quote. Had to wait quite a while to get this. This was custom powder coated. It's a darker blue than they usually use, so I'm pretty happy with it. The shelf unit's kind of like a gray, which is going to look really good. It's almost like Cowboys colors. That was not intentional. In terms of the blue, I kind of would have preferred like a Mopar blue, but this sort of like a navy, I think it'll look fine, and you know, differentiate itself from the typical black. But all I'm trying to do, we're going to cover, you know, the beefiness and how this works out later, but what I want to do now is just showcase this mess. A lot of people would not do this. I'm doing this for you, so you can witness the amazing cleanup power of Pallet Rack. So the truck is progressing really good. I've got some other stuff going on with cars. Obviously we need tires really bad on the Challenger, which I need the truck to do. It's just a mess, and we're gonna start cleaning this crud up. So I'm beyond excited to get it going, and that's what I will be doing. The good news for you, you don't have to listen to me ramble on anymore. You can just wait, and the next thing you see is gonna be the pallet rack assembled, if at all possible, totally bare, and then I will show it to you totally stocked with the motors underneath it. So stay tuned for that. All right, 10:45 p.m. I gotta get inside, place an order before 11. Also shower, get up, go to work in the morning. But check it out. That's about, what, 40 or so minutes worth of work. We've got everything moved, and it looks good, right? Better, maybe, until you see where everything is, which I may just not show you. Gauging by the awkward path I'm taking, you can probably figure it out. But there we are. That is a bare Husky shelf. This one, just to showcase it, I mean, where can you see? Way back there, you can see like the random drilled punched holes, right? That was me having to fix this. They should be slotted. Let's come down here. Oh, that's a bad example. Well, they're supposed to be slotted, and this had nothing. And I had to totally redo it. I think Edsel makes these, but that's why everything is weird. It was just a total disappointment after that one that was awesome. So, that said, we've cleared this whole area, minus this stuff, just because I'm out of time, basically. But I'm going to move that, try to get the pallet rack in position. You can kind of see some of the crud over there. But yeah, this is the last look at this bare wall before we get the pallet perfect. Now, coming back to this cleaned off shelf unit. It's a couple days later. Stayed out, cleaned the entire thing off that night that we got the pallet rack in during the storm. And subsequently, I hadn't been able to do anything else because I've been working way too long of days. So, height on this Husky shelf unit, you're looking at 78 inches. From the edge of the beam to the edge of the beam, and when I'm saying beam, I'm talking upright here, you're looking at 77 inches. So 78 tall, 77 wide overall dimensions. Now in terms of the actual shelf space, you'll see you're losing the upright, and then the beam runs all the way over here. Exact same setup, of course, inside edge. It's roughly 72 inches, so 6 feet of shelf space. Something that's really going to help differentiate these two for us is going to be what you see here. Now these, we can call that just 2 feet deep. The pallet rack is going to be 3 feet deep, so we need to add 12 inches here. And the pallet rack, I believe, is 8 feet tall, so if we were 78, we'd stick another 8 inches on. It's not a huge, or actually, I'm sorry, we were 78, we need 8 inches. So yeah, it's a considerable change. I'm trying not to have the camera knock me in the nose here as I one-hand this, but yeah. So it looks a little more intimidating from this vantage point, obviously going straight up, than it would if we were far away. But the bottom line is we're adding height, and we're going to add depth. In terms of the width of the beam, I'm not 100% sure. We'll have to actually check that when we get it assembled. So what the goal is, these are, like I said, for like home use, these are actually really good, and they're good value when you get them on sale. There's like a slotted oval head on the bottom of these beams, and then there's like a nut. I think you can kind of see the silver thing in there. And you can do them either way, but we've got to get these racks out of here. Again, this one was off, wasn't punched correctly. I had to redo it. I'm possibly going to try to leave it together as I move it, which I think could be done if we didn't have this, a hood, a gantry crane, pallet rack, everything that was previously on the shelf. So it's probably going to have to come apart, and I'll carry it down this narrow walkway and try not to scuff the hood. So the other thing I'm going to do, and again, this is, well, the shelf units, we could just stick to that versus the pallet rack, and it'd be great, everyone would be happy. You're going to have a unique situation. I've got a unique situation. We've got the Wider Pro here. And I need to have this still functional, because otherwise there's no reason in having it set up, right? So what I would like to do, this is going to sound crazy, but I think it's going to work, is if the gantry crane will like roll and, you know, kind of sandwich this whole Wider Pro is inside it, that would get the gantry crane out of my way, free up, you know, like floor space here. And then the Husky unit, I want to like move down. And believe it or not, one of those Gladiator cabinets, the diamond tread stuff, which I'm not the biggest fan of that aesthetically, but they're a really good value, and they work for light stuff, cleaning supplies, parts, things along those lines. I have another one of those too, because I got it on a really good buy. Not assembled. I've been waiting for this moment to kind of move and shift everything. So the reason I'm showing you this is you might not have the weight machine. Maybe you've got a rack. Maybe you've got a tower of parts, a tower of tires. Maybe you're up north and you have winter tires or summer tires in storage. Whatever you've got, you kind of have to maximize your space. So this is my obstacle and challenge, and it's what I'm going to attempt to figure out. By the way, you never really see this part of the shop very much, right? I'm considering moving my BFG banner there, get a little more visibility somewhere. But this may have to go, and that might get us involved in like moving toolboxes. We'll have to see. But the other thing that's going to be considerably different for us, cross section here, we're gonna, you can call that like 1.5 inches. And then front side is like 2.5, right? So fairly beefy. I mean, especially when you get these assembled. The downside, you have to have that bottom shelf, I think at that height was the highest you could go or something. Anyway, you can still put stuff under it, but obviously that doesn't work for motors. Like this height right here, I could slide motors under. Granted, they'd stick out a little bit unless we had the shelf unit farther from the wall. But the pallet rack is going to take care of that for us. So keeping this in mind, what was it, 2.5 and 1.5, if I'm not mistaken. We're going to come over here and take a look at this beefiness. So cross section here, 3 inches. What's the front section? 3 inches. So this is 3 by 3. And it's obviously braced a little bit better. You know, that unit does not have a crossbar till the top, I don't think. So We're going to get a fan on. I'm going to dismantle this unit. I'm giving you one last look at it, and then we're going to snake the pallet rack through this narrow opening. And I'm going to start assembling it, trying to factor in if I want it to be farther down because we're going to move the weight machine. So it's all kind of up in the air, but it should pay off in the end, so I'm going to get to work. And just like that, it's gone. I had to come over here, turn down Bob Seger. My walkway is even more impeded now. I've got the fan cranked on 3, and there it is. I've got the shop back over there, just cleaned it up. Going to try to get these guys over there, start carrying the shelves over, and at least get this kind of mocked up tonight. So again, bare wall, if you can kind of see it over there. I'll just come all the way, why not? So that's where I keep my like sheet metal for fabrication and stuff, and it's might have to move, I'm not sure. Weapon of choice right there, a little halter mallet. Works really well for this type of stuff. I had a nightmare of a time getting the pegs out of the Husky. Switched over to that little trim tool, worked fine. But yeah, I have this kind of cleaned up, and now we're going to get this in place to get our 3 feet out, and I guess our run this way, which I want to say it's 8 feet, but I honestly don't remember, so we're going to check. Being pallet rack, it should be. But we might get into having to move this stuff too, and that will get dicey, so I'm going to get back to work and see how it all turns out. Alright, so that, I'm not going to lie, it was a bit of a nightmare dealing with things that are 8 feet tall and 8 feet long solo, hoping that one side balances while you don't have your spine or skull crushed from a falling piece on the other end. Always makes for an exciting 11 p.m. hours. So this is just braced the first thing. These stand very square. I've got to give credit to the manufacturer there. So that was good, but it gets a little sketchy, so I went with the absolute lowest position. That's basically just for peace of mind, putting this together as a solo person. Kind of anchors it. Low point again gives it the greatest structural stability in terms of keeping it from falling on me. So I've got that down, went ahead and I thought, you know, I might go ahead just for safety's sake, put another piece. We were sort of running into the weight machine, the pull-up bar. So you can kind of see where the layer of dirt is right there. I kind of manhandled it that way a little. I started getting things a little bit back in. Sadly, like I said, it's after 11. I'm gonna have to go shower and, you know, get up in the morning to go to work. So this may very well be my stopping point, but I've sort of cleaned up a little. I know you can't tell, but did in fact clean a little. I'm also having second thoughts. If we get the motor, it kind of depends where the weight machine winds up. I'm sort of thinking, again, kick it this way. If we do that, it might not be as bad, but basically, like, let's say that we nest the 5.2 Magnum here, the 318 here, and the 440 here. It's a situation like, let's say, I don't know, I score a second gen Ram with a, you know, rod through the block or something. We'd have to, like, without access on this side, you know, due to an obstacle of another, you know, piece of equipment, we would sort of need to come in and pull, you know, basically the 440, roll it way out, slide the 318 down, roll it out, and then get the 5.2 Magnum and then reverse course, you know. I've also been thinking, you know, we've got this engine stand, we've got the spare one strung out all over, we've got a cherry picker, we've got this engine stand, which we could technically retire this. I mean, you hate to throw it away because it's perfectly fine, but I'm kind of thinking, like, you know, if we did get this weight machine over and maybe up, I don't know if we'd want a shelf unit back there for like seldom used crud or storage, or if we'd want to have the ability to say this cherry picker, this is an old one from Harbor Freight, and I mean, it swivels beautifully on all four. If I could get it back there, something that we'd seldom use, especially now with the gantry, that might be nice. Same with like this stand. We'll probably put the 318 on that All-Star dolly. There's just a lot of options, and if I wasn't waiting on parts for the truck, very simple parts, if we had it running and could get it out, you could totally make this easier on yourself. But I'm kind of torn right now on what we'll wind up doing, because you can see the difference. This is a Husky shelf too, and so the 36 inches out for our depth versus the 24, I like that being away from where a vehicle parks. With, you know, old cars, the Challenger, the truck, whatever's here, I've always had 2 on that side, 1 here, you know, ever since I've had this many vehicles, and you can't really like fit another vehicle here, so it's almost like a workspace. Punching bag stands usually assembled. If we do that, and this is typically the one that's like in and out, you know, like if I switch the truck and the Challenger or something, so it makes sense to have that available. And I don't know that the 3 foot out would be super objectionable. This is kind of a good comparison for you. So you got the dartboard, that box, and that black is the edge of our Husky shelf, and then we've got the blue, so that's like the 12 inches, you know, like right there. It's not a huge deal, but at the same time, you know, like, would that interfere? Because if I slide this down into that next cavity, it basically has to go on the other side of the dartboard, because we have that jut. That's one of my 13 foot in the 30 by 40 shop. So you don't want to swing your door into it. The quarter panel has technically been out a little farther than that all this time, so it might not be that bad. It's mainly just I've got to play around and figure it out, sadly, because I would love to get all this, I've got to get all that crud back at some point so I can work on the truck and finish it when the parts come. It's just there's a lot of options and I don't know what's best. So like I said though, it's pretty dadgum late, unfortunately, so I'm probably going to run in. This is, again, just the back side is for structure only. I do kind of plan on having a top shelf though. Again, I got 6 total uprights. That probably won't stay unless I just use 2 shelves, and I'll leave it there as a backing and then do something with the other one. I don't know, like hang it for pegboard, who knows, but I like it there for now. The shelf unit, we're probably, I mean, like, let's say the top of the 440 is right here. The shelf is going to be just where I can get my hand in and pull from the back of the block. That's all the space I want there. So we'd probably have a shelf unit, you know, like yay high, and then we'd probably have another one, you know, maybe halfway up. And then the reason I like that ability to have the top shelf, empty boxes that I want to keep, seldom used things, you know, car covers, body panels for future projects, the quarter panels could go up there, all sorts of things. And it's just, it's kind of dumb to give up that ability by not having a top shelf, in my opinion. So for example, I could have done the typical 2. We'd have one right above the 440, one here, but then dead space, right? So I'm crippling the ability of the second from the top shelf, but realistically this is 8 feet tall. I've been dealing with something 78. It's going to work great, and then I get that added bonus of the stuff at the top. So ultimately I've just got to figure this out for myself, kind of like you would. But the rack, again, very sturdy. The paint is coming off. I mean, like, this was a nightmare. I don't have a ladder out here right now. I just have this little step stool. And as you can see, we're not quite where we need to be. So like, this is my arm fully extended, and that's the top. So you can imagine getting something 8 feet in the air that you're trying to line up those 3 little, you know, pegs into the teardrop while holding an 8 foot run that way. These aren't very heavy, but when your hand is limited to this position and you're trying to jostle like so, that side starts to get real heavy. And as you can see, like, the paint just comes right off, unfortunately. I don't know if they'd like hook me up with some touch-up paint or something. It's not a huge deal. It's just, you know, kind of like there, and some of that's from shipping damage, but I think you can see it now right here. Stuff like that, I mean, I would love to have just touched up. Doesn't have to look perfect, I just don't want to have exposed metal. So anywho, like I said, I gotta get in. And I'm sure when I post this video, some of you will be like, oh yeah, you know, you should have done this. But right now I'm just gonna wing it and try to figure it out. Again, the addition of the gantry, while it takes up a ton of space, it's basically, you know, docked this, but this would still be useful, and you've got it, and I hate to just get rid of it or sell it, you know, type of deal, because you could use it. So I've got the Husky shelf. I've sort of cleaned its remnants up a little bit, and I don't know. We're gonna try to figure something out. Just kind of need some more time, and Sadly, I need to get that crud away from the truck, so it might come over here incomplete. I might use like the top shelf and pick a random height in the middle just to store some of this crud and then readdress it when I have more time. But yeah, this is just what you go through, you know, when you're trying to like organize stuff and figure it all out. So that said, we will be back, and I'll kind of show you what I've come up with and how well it works, what moved where, and that should cover the video for you. Alright, not gonna lie, stayed out here as you probably anticipated I would. It's about 11:40 now, but check it out. I went ahead, I've got the 440 there. That kind of dictates the height of that shelf. My last thing I'm gonna do is grab the final 6th beam. It's over that way on a box by the charger. And I have to walk it all the way around the duster, back through the front by the toolboxes to get over here, but I want that done. That'll be my stopping point tonight. And I might raise that shelf just a little bit, but in order to start moving crud back to be able to functionally work on the truck, I sort of needed that guideline. And again, you could go by measurements, but I kind of wanted to envision coming in there with my hand to pull from the back of the motor if we needed to. And it might go up one peg. If not that, it's going to stay right where you see it there. Also, I'll need to fish that stuff out. Not sure if that's staying or going or what, but I wanted to get that roughed in. By getting this shelf height determined as my first thing, I can then build up. We know obviously the very top is going to be covered, but it's sort of like the middle shelf that we want to pick our height on. So to give you an example of the change, going from the Huskies here, this is their side profile, this is their side profile from the Speedrack West, this is the front. It's quite the difference, right? And again, goes up quite a good chunk higher, again 18 inches if I remember correctly. So if you've got the space, if you've got the open land, Pallet Rack is an excellent option. Even if you don't have a forklift or plan to use pallets, it's just one of those things. It's a good shelving, it's cheap. Again, if you can find it used, that would be what I would advise. You can paint it yourself, powder coat, whatever you want to do. But we will work on getting that shelf height determined tomorrow night, hopefully. And then our middle shelf, I'll start pulling stuff back to this shelf unit so we can get to the truck. Because right now it's kind of inaccessible. And then if we want to move everything, I think we'll do it at a later date. So at least with the hood gone, that'll free up some space if I can throw the quarter panels up there or something. But anywho, that's it for tonight. It is hot in here, and I gotta hit the shower. So like I said though, you know, it's a good stopping point. So we'll go by this, build up, take it from there. I'll catch you back here tomorrow. All right, it is Friday night, just before 9 p.m. Just got home, came right out here and gonna pick back up. I think there was a night or so that I got like 9:30 to 10:30 out here, just kind of moving stuff around. I've sort of mocked this up. That first beam that you see there is roughly 30 or so inches off the ground. That gives space for the 440. It should be good for the small blocks, not 100% sure. But coming up, I've kind of got these offset. And that's not because I want things to roll down when we put a shelf unit in, but rather I'm trying to pick which one I like. Initially that back rail was in, so we would sort of have a kind of a feel, you know, for like the height, distance, and shelf space. This one I sort of did by measurements, the one in the front, and it probably makes more sense. Again, my logic being I'm not going to put anything super tall, I don't anticipate, on that top shelf, but I went ahead, I've got the grate in there. There is, if you have it in the corner, and in that corner, this is two pieces, you'll see that gap right there. Not a huge fan of that. I totally get how that would be perfectly fine with pallets in terms of just like home use. You know, it's kind of not ideal. Best solution is probably to have these two meet in the end and then just have whatever's on the end hang over a little. We may tweak that. You can see the shells pretty nice. They come over the beam. But that one is fixed. And currently, if I were to have a back beam here, we've got like 2 feet, you know, of like storable space there. Maybe a little bit more, kind of depends how creative you get. If space is a premium, if you kind of see where that kind of like angle iron looking piece, the V-shaped one, sits down in the beam, If you ran wood across there or sheets of metal, whatever, that would be super heavy and awkward. But like at work, you know, I'll just run, you know, like a 1x, and then we'll run 3/4 plywood over the top of it. You might get a little bit more clearance than you would with the wire racks that go over, but right now it's just kind of figuring out what height I want. I may just roll with something, probably this height right here, again the 2 foot for this one, get some crud on this thing, and then see if I can't make the shop walkable. That's kind of the goal right now. So again, this all kind of depends. Like if you've got 18-inch tall items you're going to be storing a ton of, you could probably fit more shelves. If you've got 4-foot tall items, you know, you could probably get by with 2 shelves type of a thing, right? But I'll be kind of just playing around figuring this out. But this is progress point. Sweating my butt off when I got that crud set up. And even right here, like that's me right there in the reflection. And I mean, it's like right at a little above eye level for me. So probably would be nice if it wasn't, but at the same time, that sort of makes this shelf more functional. So we'll play with it, figure it out, and I'll show you the next update. All right, so you're probably hearing the fan. I do not care. It is ridiculously hot in here. That said, we've made some progress here. Went together real quick. Had to adjust painfully the shelves 1 slot, bottom and middle, if you will. And top shelf, we're set on that height. These 2 are subject to change. I kind of like this one. I wound up going 1 higher. In part, I pulled that brace at the bottom when I was just trying to keep things from falling on me, and put it up in the back, and it was 1 up. And I decided that I liked having that little extra. I mean, you could go where I had it originally, but if we get like an oddball engine stand, or we get like a tall, like say there's a tunnel ram or something, I think that gives us a little bit more space, headroom if you will. So I feel pretty good about that. That blue container down there is like really, really, really heavy, so I think it's gonna stay. But now it's just kind of a matter of like repopulating these shelves so I can, you know, like get to the truck. So I'm gonna start in on that. But yeah, I mean, it's coming together good. So I'm gonna get some music going, try to turn on another fan and see how it comes together. Again, source of the noise. But aside from like the Husky shelf unit, which is strung out here and on the other side of the truck, we have a walkway. If I take you this way, we can now get to the truck. We've got the walkway there, sort of again kind of bad because of the Husky shelf pieces. I will do something with those. Check it out though. All that stuff is back on a shelf unit with space to spare. This is like poorly packed, in part for a multitude of reasons. Number one, shelf spacing wasn't quite perfect for what I was doing. It was very, very close, but not quite optimal. We could potentially send this one up one, not 100%. That would work really well for me though. The top, that's all empty boxes. These 2 I just like fill packing in. Like if I get good bubbles or lots of you know, packing paper, I'll fold it over in case I ever need to pack stuff. I've got it on hand here in the shop. Those are more decorative than anything, and if you ever need to haul heads or an intake manifold, the box fits, so it makes sense to keep them. But yeah, poorly structured there. A glaring weakness and oversight right here is this mess right here. We need to do something with all of my metal. I've got some back there, which, you know, can't really get to it now, but whatever. We'll cross that bridge when I need to. A lot of these are very, very light and just have parts in them temporary. That's kind of like the seats. They will be back in the Charger, you know, hopefully here pretty soon. That is not the finished result. Those are OE door panels and, you know, door pads, stuff like that. And I had already packed everything else, and I'm ready to go get a drink because I'm thirsty. And yeah, it turned out good. I mean, the motor parking is the main thing, and I've got plenty of space to spare. Conceivably, our 318 goes there. I could move in the torque flight, which is sort of covered in cardboard right there. Also, those quarter panels may very well get thrown on that top shelf. My big limitation with kind of structuring that and the top shelf better is that's all I have out here. I've got the ladder in the house. Might buy a second ladder, in all honesty. This is also not finalized. That's actually a really cool neon sign, and I just don't have anywhere to hang it right now, so it's kind of hanging out in the box. It was very close to fitting on that shelf. Clearly it will fit on the bottom deck, so we may go that route. But yeah, I mean, everything that was on that shelf unit right there, I mean, same Husky shelf unit was here. We now have Pallet Rack, which is deeper, which is wider, and which is taller. And man, it is nice. If you could fill your shop, or a wall of your shop, or a corner of your shop, like an L shape, with Pallet Rack, man, it's golden. Especially if you do, you know, have like a forklift or a skid load, anything along those lines, you know, like a tractor that you can pull in, you know, from time to time. That way, you know, like if you got a lot of motors or transmissions or axles or whatever, you could have a whole shelf. Like that could be axles, you know, or gear sets or anything. So keep that in mind. You know, it's kind of, the more you have equipment wise, the more you can do. The seats, like I said, will be getting out of here. The hood will be getting back on the truck. The punching bag will be going back on the punching bag stand. That 318 is probably going to go on that little all-star cradle. I might convert this to a rear end stand. This one, so hot, I had to take the shirt off, it's just sticking to me. But, this might get converted, folded up, stored with this. Just kind of depends how things go, but man, I'm happy. At first, you know, when I had thrown the motors against the wall, I was like, oh man, you know, it looks okay. It was expensive mainly because of the freight. Maybe I did the wrong thing. And then once all this was back on it, it's like, yeah, we did the right thing. So I'm very content at this point in time. And again, we'll sort of be like finalizing this as I get a ladder and more time. And a lot of these are parts, like I said, that we'll install back on a car, and they'll be out of here, and it'll open up more storage space for us. So that's gonna be a good setup, I think. So and this is wide enough with a pallet rack. You know, if I had like drill assemblies or tail panels, whatever, I mean, you can fit some pretty significant stuff on a span of pallet racks. So I'm gonna quit rambling, go inside, get a drink before I just completely lose my voice. But very happy with this progress. Most importantly, for the time being, once I move that Husky stuff, I've got like pathways to the truck again, and we're very, very close. I've got all the stuff I need at this point in time. All the hardware that I was missing and wanted upgraded, all of the antifreeze, all that stuff. So we'll get this going, we'll get the hood on, we will start working towards getting the cars going after we do some basic maintenance on the Challenger, which includes the tires, which is going to free up a lot of space back there. Things are finally starting to make sense, right? Sort of. So pallet rack, once again, it's just the way to go, especially if you can get it local or if you can get it used. Like I said, if you want it powder coated or custom painted, talk to whoever manufactures it, you know, or if you get it used, just say, hey, you know, quote this for me, go with the best price, go with the nicest person, the closest transit, whatever. But if you want to customize it and want, you know, like pink uprights and neon green crossbars, you can do it. You can color code stuff where you've got like built running engines in green, you've got like cores in red, you have unknowns in orange, whatever. There's just, the sky's really the limit, and including your ceiling. So if you have more ceiling height, you know, this is an 8-foot rack here, so some of you with bigger shops, you know, or higher roofs, you could go up a bit more. Again, for the average person, storing things by hand, not a great idea. But you know, if you've got the ability to have, like I said, a forklift or skid loader at your place, go tall. You will never regret that. You know, seldom used whatever goes up top, frequently used stuff, accessible shelves, heavy items, you know, you can roll down below. It's just a really good setup. So I'm gonna quit rambling though. Like I said, I'm pretty dadgum happy. Hopefully this kind of walks you through it, because again, if you're in the market for pallet rack, you think it's a dumb idea, people don't do it at home or a residential shop, you know, or you're like hobby shop or whatever, you know, not non-commercial setting, if you will, this kind of shows you what you can do. You know, I had all the stuff, whether you call it cool stuff or junk, you know, it was there, it had to get out. It seems discouraging, and then when you assemble it, go up, take your time, it comes out quite nice. So couldn't be happier at this point in time. I'll be tweaking it, finalizing it, getting it kind of organized better on the rack itself, cleaning up the shop a bit more, and we'll be home free. So looking forward to doing that. That I've not made a video on, just came in tonight, opened it. I'm gonna probably take that one to work, but so far so good. It was, like I said, really hot, and I had to put the door down so bugs wouldn't come in. But, anyway, let me know your thoughts on this. If you were on the fence with Pallet Rack and you pulled the trigger, how well did it work out for you? If you've already pulled the trigger and Pallet Racked your world, how's it doing? How do you like it? Do your friends copy you? What advice would you give people looking to do this? Would it be buy more, go tall, go wide, L shapes, 90s, whatever? If you mess around with this and you've got organization down to an art, leave a comment, let people know what they should consider doing based on your experience. Again, my big thing, this Pallet Rack got the motors out of the middle of the shop or out of a walkway up against a wall, and now I have functional storage above it. I can still access the motors, I can pull them out. It's just a great setup for me with the limited space I've got. So yeah, it's like I said, turned out good, and I'm happy with it. So that said, LoneStarMopars.com is a website. You can find us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, all three at Lone Star Mopars. Again, let me know your thoughts, give people suggestions, tips for organizing things on Pallet Rack, whatever plans you've got and have executed. But with that said, I gotta quit rambling. My apologies. I'm drained. I've been drained for about a month now, and this is the best I can do. So succinct's never been my thing, and I will leave it at that. So thanks for watching. I'll catch you back here for more action from the shop.